topic, I've had some close encounters with it, and I didn't like it. So this morning, we started this journey about today's topic this morning, and some of you were here, so you got a little glimpse of what the topic is. But again, before I go into that, again, I want us to understand that we are trying to encourage us. We're trying to re-educate us as God re-educated Israel. We're trying to re-educate us to the ways of health, sickness, disease, and living, because we have been falsified. It's been falsified. We too often look at the symptoms and want to deal with the symptoms. That's not God's way. So with that, we understand that disease, which today's topic is classed as a disease. And so we want to understand what disease is, and we want to understand what health is. So I'm going to share those two definitions before we get started. So disease. Disease is an effort of nature to free the system from the conditions that result from a violation of the law of health. So that's what disease is. Now, you probably thought disease was a myriad of some other things, but it is an effort of nature, of our body, to free what's happening inside. So that's why we have all of these different symptoms, because our body is trying to rid itself of the conditions that lie beneath. So with that, what is health? And we talked about that definition this morning. So in order for us to be healthy, as God desires, we need to understand that it is a state of complete. Now, when we say complete, it means whole, it means all, it means total. You know, often in treating symptoms, treating sicknesses, we still want to deal with topical things. But when God talks about being in health, he talks about a complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and just not merely the absence of disease or infirmities. So we have a ways to go. But God desires that we be whole and that we be healthy. 3 John verse 2, one of my favorite verses, and you may know this by heart. 3 John verse 2. Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prosper. So with that, today we'll talk about pain. And for some of you, you may be able to see this bag, and it's labeled pain. So this bag is kind of camouflaged, right? This represents our body, our life sometimes. We camouflage the things that go on in our body, in our life. We camouflage those. But we can't camouflage the pain because it's there, it's real, it hurts. Again, that's the verse, 3 John. God wants us to prosper and be in health. He wants us to present our bodies back as living sacrifices, wholly acceptable unto him. Some may want to take a copy of that, but that's the definition of health. And we as a church, Seventh-day Adventist Church, has accepted this definition as one of the most complete definitions of health by the World Health Organization. Okay. So what is pain? What is pain? And we talked about that this morning, and I saw some eyes that was expanding about what is pain. Pain, an unpleasant sensation that can range from mild, localized discomfort to agony. It can be acute. It can be chronic. But it doesn't feel good. It hurts. It's a symptom. It's just not something that you and I want. But like I said, I've had my bouts with pain, and I'm sure you have too. Pain, holistic understanding, it is a body response. It's a body response. And let me share with you why that statement, a body response. Again, symptoms tell us that there's something underneath, within, that's happening, another condition, a symptom. Body responses, and we talked about that this morning. When you cough, that's a response, a body symptom that tells you that you have germs, debris, some other condition that's actually making you cough. And your body goes through the cough response to expel what has gotten into your body. So the cough is not your problem. But what do we do when we cough? We actually run to drugstores to get medications to stop the cough. Okay? Sneezing, pretty much the same thing. There's antigens or other contaminants that get into our system, and we sneeze because the body is so marvelously created that it goes and it works upon itself to try to correct itself or correct things that are going wrong. So we sneeze. The body tries to expel, blow those contaminants out. A fever. The fever is, in a sense, not our problem, but we always want to treat fevers. Doctors, medications, they treat fevers. But the fever is your body's natural response to, again, attack something, say, a viral infection, which those are a little bit more serious, but your body raises its temperature to fight that viral infection. So the fever is not your problem, but we want to go and we want to get things to fight the fever. And while we're doing all these fighting of the symptoms, we're letting the problem that's in us, underneath us, fester and get worse. So it's a body response. Pain. Pain is another body response. But we want to find all kinds of ways to address just the pain instead of the problem. Now, this morning, during our presentation or presenting the fact that we were going to talk about pain, I used an example that I'm going to use again because most of you were not here, and Brother Leroy is not here, but I told him that I was going to use him as an example. So last week when we were at the campgrounds and we were doing a lot of work and we were hammering, we were sawing, we were doing all kinds of things. And Leroy and I had a project where we were hammering nails. Well, our fingers somehow thought it had become a nail and it got in the way. And so we hammered our finger. Have you ever hammered your finger before? Excruciating pain. And we had excruciating pain. So we shook the finger, we blew the finger, we did all things to try to calm the pain. But if we had taken the approach of the medical world, we would have gone and cut the finger off to get rid of the pain. But would that actually get rid of the pain? No. But that's what we do. We address symptoms. So we said, well, let's address this symptom for what it is. And so we said, finger, stay out of the way and let the hammer hit the nail. So that's what we do. That's what we, in God's holistic world, seek to do. Use the symptom to let us know that there's something underneath, something more drastic that may be addressed. And so with pain, it's a symptom of a bodily condition, something else that needs to be addressed. And we're going to get into some of those. Again, I'd like for us to understand, let me see if I can. I'm trying to get to the disease part. Disease is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from a violation of the laws of health In case of sickness, the cause should be ascertained. So when we have our symptoms, we need to ascertain what's causing the symptom. And usually what we do in health and temperance and MME, we go through the list of 8 health laws. Which health laws are we violating? Because usually that's answers a large part of it. Again, violation of the laws of health. Almost every symptom, almost every sickness, every disease. So who can have pain? Brother Leroy had pain when he hit his finger with the hammer. Actually, we all can have pain. So, survey, who all has had pain? So if you didn't raise your hand, because I know you have. The reason why pain, and this is what God was dealing with Israel. It's Isaiah chapter 1, and you may not be able to read that, but Isaiah chapter 1, verse 5 through 8, it simply tells us that God continues to call individuals, call people, call nations, call us, his people, because from the bottom of our foot to the top of our head, we're doing things that make us sick. From the bottom of our feet to the top of our head. That's what Isaiah said right there. That make us sick. And if we do things that are going to make us sick, we're going to have those symptoms and we're going to have pain, since we're talking about that today. So last month, and you can't see this very well, but we're talking about who can have pain. Last month, I thank all of you that participated in the little pain survey. And quite a number of you did. But I had the male gender age groups, I had the female gender age groups, and then a combined and just dealt with the age groups. So 30 individuals, well, 28 individuals participated with age group. But what I want to look at is the pain sector down here. Most pains that you can see in this column actually fell into the age group of 40 to 59. And you had more pains that relate to each of these, which you can't see, but we're just talking about the pain from 60 and above. So as we get into our middle ages, we tend to deal more with problems. And again, today being the topic of pain, you can see that in that age group, which starts to deal more with pains, acute, chronic, and actually there was more in that chronic section, chronic pain, in those 2 age groups. So where is the pain? Again, remember, we can be sick from anywhere from the sole of our feet to the top of our head. Any part of the anatomy. So we're encouraged through the spirit of prophecy that we should understand anatomy. We should understand physiology. Parents, Sister White specifically says that you should teach your children anatomy. So what is anatomy? Anatomy is the understanding of this body. Simply the understanding the 11 systems and the myriad of internal organs and different things. Physiology, understanding how this body works. So it's hard to make something perfect if you don't know how it works and operates. Engineers, they know how all the parts work. And so therefore, they're more able to design and to build things because they know how things work. But God wants us to understand anatomy and physiology so we'll know this body inside and out and how it works. So if you don't know how it works, we'll continue to do the same things we've been doing and we'll continue to get the same problems we've been getting. Pain, we can have pain in our heads, headaches, back pain. One of the most common complaints, back pain. Well, of course, the brain and this part of the back, that's part of the central nervous system. So if anything goes on in your body, those two are going to communicate and send out the signal through the other parts of your body. But we have pains because of the cervical, thoracic, the lumbar, and the sacrum. Those vertebrae can either be damaged, pushed out of order, pushed together. They can even be moved where it presses upon the nerves. And those can create some excruciating back pains. So we need to keep the vertebrae, this back, and you call it your backbone, but we need to keep this vertebrae aligned. We need to keep each vertebrae, there's a spacing. We need not keep it cramped and pushed together. So that's over 20 some vertebrae that you can have a problem with. Have eye problems, pain. A lot of us wear glasses. I'm sure we have some pain sometimes. Muscles, there's over 800 muscles in your body. So that's 800 muscles that can have pain. 800 muscles. That's 800 muscles we have to take care of, right? Bones, tendons, thousands of tendons in our body, thousands, because they connect the muscles to the bones. So it's thousands and thousands of tendons, and reckless living, bad or improper eating can damage the tendons. Over 200 bones. It's just a myriad of things within us that can go wrong if we're not taking care of ourselves properly. 200 bones, over 200 bones. Can you imagine bones getting broken, squeezed, just deformed, and all of it ends up as pain? Knees, joints, pain, pain, pain. Nerve pain. So in the brain, again, you see the vertebrae, nerves. So anytime this vertebrae is out of order, pressing any of the nerves, those signals, your body is going to respond. It's going to respond by having pain, and it's going to send, those pains are being sent out by the body, by those nervous system to tell you something is not right. There is a problem. Pains in different parts, tender points, a myriad of places within the body that we have to take care of, we have to make whole in order not to have these pains. So now, what causes the pain? And I've already mentioned a little bit, body out of order, not so much in the right form. This verse, let me go back. This verse, and we always talk about the situation with Israel, how God dealt with Israel, coming out of Egypt, re-educating them, reinstituting his style of life. So God says, if thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and wilt do that which is right, do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments and keep all his statutes, I will put none of the diseases of Egypt upon you. I implore you to go back and study the diseases of Egypt. It doesn't particularly say pain was, but with all the conditions they had, pain had to be a part of it. Satan is the originator of disease. So when we're having pain, our body, I'm not going to say that have given ourselves over to Satan, but we're not in the whole frame of mind, body, and soul, because there's something going on, and Satan would love to just make sure that we're not only sick, but he would love to have us fully diseased so he can kill us. He would love that. The one less Seventh-day Adventist Christian that he will have to deal with. Sin and disease bear each other the relationship of cause and effect. We need to forever keep this in mind. Things do not happen without a cause. Whether you are the cause directly or indirectly. Things do not happen without a cause. And you can see where it's taken from, Testimonies, Volume 5, page 443, or the book Healthful Living. But disease never comes without a cause. The way is first prepared, and disease is invited by disregarding the laws of health. And again, Healthful Living or How to Live, page 70. And sickness is caused by violating the laws of health. This is something that even in medical missionary classes, you're going to get this over and over and over again, because the laws that govern our well-being, God's health laws, are the center of letting us know whether we're right or wrong, whether we're doing things right or moving in the right track. And so you will always get this for us to understand, let me get the pointer here, where we are as it relates to the laws of health, whether we're violating them or not. So pain is grouped into three major categories. We can have physical pain, or just simply just nerve pains, or this last one. Now, it's actually the AOS, the autonomic overload syndrome. So I was doing some reading in preparation for this, and I ran across this book, and it's entitled Pain Free by a doctor, and he was treating patient after patient after patient. And of course, he ran across some physical pains. He ran across individual with pains just because of nerves, but it just didn't happen for no reason, but there were nerve problems, nerve pains. But this third one, let me read to you what he said. It says the AOS, which is the autonomic overload syndrome, it says, is subconscious emotions and stresses build up and overstimulate the autonomic nervous system and the related mechanism. So these are suppressed, unresolved worries and issues, things that we don't deal with in life. Suppressed feelings, suppressed emotions, anger that we've just pushed down for so long that they have just been, they just cause problems, but they're there, and we've actually just kind of pushed them out of our minds, if you will. I hope I got this right. Yeah. Okay. So it's become subconscious. So that's why I started out first with this, because sometimes we camouflage the things that go on in our life. We camouflage them. So we camouflage them and we do this. We walk around carrying them around. Prosperity. We say that we're Christians and we're looking for heavenly things, but we have our minds focused on earthly things. We camouflage, and so we carry these. We put this deep into our minds. Nobody will know, but I need some more money. I need a bigger house. I need this. And subconsciously, this is what we're working toward. It just becomes more into our subconscious. That's a real brick. It's heavy. We camouflage and we cover up our state of activity or inactivity, as it may be. It's a real problem. Inactivity. So we walk around and we say, I don't want to do that. So we bury it into our subconscious, whether or not I should be active or not. And we know we should be. So it gets pushed down into the subconscious. That's heavy. That's a brick. Let's see what. Carry around unhealthy practices. Body is not truly presented to God as they ought to be. But we want everybody to think that we are. So we push those into our subconscious. We get angry if someone says, brothers and sisters, can we help you do this? Or we should do this. Or you get upset with health and temperance when we come with straight testimony. So we want to push things into our subconscious. And those build up tension, stress, and they work on the nerves. Well, tennis balls, but well, these just represent the fact that we play games in life. We play games about our life. We play games about our health. And when our sickness becomes a disease and we're close to death, then we really call upon God. But God said, I've given you the health message. I've given you individuals. I've given you programs. I have given you my word. And I gave you my son, that he came that you might have life and have it more abundantly, but you rejected it all. So would it be right for me to actually heal you when you've done this? So that's up to God and his will then, if he's going to heal you in this condition. But we can't keep playing games with life. We can't keep pushing things into our subconscious, because this autonomic overload syndrome is serious. This gentleman says of all the individuals that he addressed, that's where most of the pains came from. Stress buildup. Subconscious, working on the nerves. So these are some of the causes, as we're going to get deeper into this. Some of the causes of what really causes us pain. Accidents. Automobile accidents. Of course, you're not out trying to have an accident, so this is usually not your fault, so to speak, that you have an accident and then you end up with problems in the body and pain. So accidents, injuries, whether it be from working out sports, falls, muscle tears, sickness, weaken the immune system, which we can do something about our immune system. Disease, various ones, arthritis. We can do something about arthritis in most cases. Really study our nutritional status. Medications and drugs. We're on generally, except for extreme conditions, we're on too many medications and drugs when we don't even really need to. Worry, stress, as we talked about that autonomic overload syndrome. Violating the health laws, which we cannot get away from. So we talk about poor nutrition, indigestion, lack of exercise, water, rest. Overweight, that's a big problem with pain. It puts undue pressure on joints, squeezing organs, tissues, nerves, and it's been stated for some time that about 60% of US adults are overweight, And of that, another 40% are in the obese category. So again, I advise all of us to do your BMI, to find out what your BMI is, your body mass index. If you're in 25, 30 BMI range, you're in the overweight. If you're 35 and older in the BMI, you're into the obese. So just to give you an idea, my BMI is at 20. I'm at 20. So there's a formula that you can work your own BMI. There is a formula. So inflammation, but the thing which we are confused about is inflammation. Inflammation actually comes to help heal your body. Inflammation actually comes as an effort of your body to try to heal the problem or condition. Now, the problem with inflammation actually kicks in when that part of the equation is not being healed, and so the inflammation stays there too long. But initially, the inflammation, which is your blood bringing nutrients to help heal the area that's swollen or inflamed. And of course, we talked about nerve damage. And number 13, but certainly not least, trusting God, or in this case where we're talking about pain, the lack of trusting God and being obedient. So what can I do for pain? Now, it's usually two directives. One, in which most people are going to use, what can I take? And you know what that's leading to. What drug, what medication can I take? That question is basically leading in that direction. Instead of having the question, what can I do? So the question usually starts out, what can I take versus what can I do? So if we're going to go the drug route, again, we are obligated to educate and instruct God's people to please understand this. Drugs do not cure disease. They help. They might give you some temporary relief, but they do not cure. If you go back to our original, where we talked about what health is, health being complete physical, mental, social well-being, drugs do not do that. Drugs give you a temporary relief for whatever condition you're taking them for. It is true that they sometimes afford present relief, and the patient appears to recover as a result of their use. This is because nature has sufficient vital force to expel the poison and to correct the conditions that cause the disease. We use that verse, talk about God, we're so wonderfully created. That's what that's talking about. God has created us, our bodies, to correct problems if we do what's right and assist it. So health is recovered in spite of the drug. But in most cases, the drug only changes the form and location of the disease. Often, the effect of the poison seems to be overcome for a time, but the results remain in the system and work great harm at some later period. So we can go and take the drugs. It's not going to heal the condition. It's going to just promote another problem in another area if we stay on drugs, too long. So here's a list of the drugs. The individual says, what can I take? So Backaid Max, Tylenol, Motrin pain relief, Advil, oxycodone, morphine, joint supplements, Omega XL, CBD. Yeah, CBD has gotten into this too now, CBD oils. But the omegas, as I was reading through these, that one is a little close because that one is dealing with a lot of your B vitamins, your oils, such as your olive oils, your coconut oils, different oils that our bodies can use to help repair joint tendons and those things. So that one was pretty close as far as at least having in it something that's going to deal with actual joint pains and help building up joints. B vitamins. But this is what you're going to deal with if you get into the drug scene. It's going to have side effects. And these are some of the milder side effects. These are the mild ones. You might have some nausea, you might have some drowsiness, itching, sweating, depression. Do we need to be depressed? Of course, it weakens the immune system. Tolerance, meaning that over time, your body needs more of the drugs to get the same effect. This is if we're having to stay on, or we choose to stay on them a long time. Addiction, we certainly don't need that. So, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We can choose of the good, the bad, or the ugly if we want to say, what can I take? That's the Omega. And they have really been pushing this one online, pushing it for sales. Pain relief patches. But again, God says, if you diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God and do that which is right in his sight. But we got to learn what's right in God's sight. And we know that. We've been hearing this over and years about what God desires of us from a health standpoint. We've been hearing over and over and over. We have just got to make up in our minds and be committed and do them. You got to determine the root cause. The pain, again, is not your basic problem. Find the root cause. Find out if you bruised something, if you broke something, if you damaged something. I fell just last week and damaged the side of my leg, and it swelled up. So the inflammation, the swelling, it went to bring nutrients to heal it, and in no time, it went down, it went away. The root cause was that I fell and hit my leg on something. The root cause was not the pain. Find the root cause. So we're talking about getting back to perfect health. This one you need to salivate on and learn and work toward this end. Because in perfect health, in order to have good health, we must have good blood. That means drinking enough water, eating nutritious foods. For the blood is the current of life. It repairs waste and nourishes the body. When supplied with the proper food elements and when cleansed and vitalized by contact with pure air, it carries life and vigor to every part of the system. The more perfect the circulation, the better will this work be accomplished. Perfect health depends on perfect blood circulation. Leviticus chapter 17, verse 11 and 14. Leviticus 17, 11 and 14. It says, the life of all flesh is in the blood. And Ellen White, the prophetess, that's what she's saying. The life, blood brings life to the injured part, brings nourishment. There's no substitute for human blood. If you take all the blood out of a human, what do you have? So that's by definition what blood is. But again, perfect health, perfect circulation of blood, making sure that the blood has in it the elements that will provide perfect health. Seventh-day Adventists are now to stand for separate and distinct, a people dominated by the Lord and his own. Until they do this, he cannot be glorified in them. Truth and error cannot stand in co-partnership. Let us now place ourselves where God has said that we should stand. And I'm going to go a line of demarcation, a deep and thorough work of reform is needed in the Seventh-day Adventist church. I have many Seventh-day Adventist friends, and they have very little to no regard for the health message. That's sad. God awakened us as a people in the Advent movement time in 1863 when Ellen White had her first vision, because health is important to God. Our health is important to God. And that's says a deep and thorough work of reform is needed in the Seventh-day Adventist church. Believers are to exert an influence that bears witness to the power of heavenly principles. The principle, again, goes back to a law, and it goes back to God's health law. It goes back to God's moral law. It goes back to us obeying the health laws that govern our well-being. Those are the New START acronym and the 8 health laws. But you say, well, if I don't take medications, then what can I do? We're getting to that. We're getting to that. What can I do? On a holistic standpoint, what can I do? First, ascertain where the problem is, what caused your pain. First, ascertain what caused your pain and exactly where it is, even if you have to go get an examination. There's nothing wrong with going to the doctor. In fact, we should be getting examinations yearly, I truly believe, so that you can have baselines and you can know if your numbers are moving off baselines and which direction they're going. So but we need to ascertain where the problem is. What can I do? And these are not in any particular order, but cleanse the body system, detox, eat nourishing foods. And this morning I shared, we're proud that we're vegetarians to vegans. But if you do a search of your food, if your foods are not providing all of the vitamins, all of the minerals, we're still malnourished. That's what your food is supposed to bring, is vitamins and minerals to the parts of the body. So you need to understand what the foods are bringing. And as it relates to pain, again, inflammation, swelling, pain, if our foods provide the full nourishment, it heals quicker. And so I'm thinking, perhaps, God, that when I bruised my leg and the inflammation came, the blood came in just a day or so, it went away, it healed, that maybe I might be on the right track. I might be doing something good nutrition-wise, I'm hoping. So the joint nourishment that we were talking about in that Excel slide of the jug, it's talking about the omega fatty acids. And don't let people fool you. Oh, you got to stay away from the olive oils. You got to stay away from the nut oils. You got to stay away from this. Those are God's prescribed omegas. The problem is we don't go and exercise and burn it off enough. That's the problem. Just like carbs, God has ordained the simple carbs. But if we're just going to eat simple carbs, that can be just as dangerous if we're not going to burn them off, because they provide energy. So don't be fooled by the reports that say you should stay away from, the olive oil and those oils that's good for your joints and even nuts. Burn them off by exercising more. Stretching. As we get older, as we age, that is one of the most important exercises that any of us can do. Stretch. Again, it's going to stretch your back, the vertebrae, so that the vertebrae does not cram each other, creating pain. Stretch. One of the most important ones. So, not by a show of hands, meaning don't answer. How many of you have a stretch routine? Don't raise your hand, but contemplate it. Do you have a stretching routine? It's an absolute must as we're aging. Drink more water. Drug medication, take it as less as possible. Jeremiah 46:11. If you remember Jeremiah 8:22, he asks, is there no balm in Gilead? Well, he goes on to Jeremiah 46:11 and says, in vain do God's people go up and they take medications, for medications do not heal. That's what Jeremiah said in 46:11. And the worry and the stress, resolve negative issues. Again, manage our weight, surgery. Sometimes it may get that serious. I've recently had a family member, my mom, and she was having severe blood circulation problems in her leg for years. Over 5 or 6 years, she had probably 6 operations trying to open up veins so she could get blood circulation, stents put in, but excruciating pain, just pain for 5 years in one leg, a little small lady. And she finally got to the point, I was home just a couple months ago, and she said, Michael, I can't take this. What would you do? Well, my answer at that time was, Mom, you want to keep your leg. I know you want to keep your leg, but you're not doing your rehab like you ought. You're not making the blood circulate as you ought. But if you want to keep your leg, you've got to work through the pain. She said, thank you. So I came home, and that next week, I got a phone call from my sister. Mom said she was going to have her leg amputated, surgery, to address the pain. So that's what she did. Now, praise God, thank God that she's doing well mentally. She's accepted it, so she's going through rehab. But that's a severe remedy, surgery, when we can do a lot of these other things and it will work out better. And of course, number 9, diligently obey health laws. Diligently. Water, the water and the cleansing, washing out toxins. Toxins help create pain. Washing out toxins. It was vital with God in Israel. You see, those are 2 books that Ellen White actually related to Israel and how God wanted to preserve them, the hygiene standards, general hygiene and hygiene among the Israelites. And I'm not saying that any of us are not hygienic, but we can do better if we're talking about cleansing the system so that we can deal with pain and some of the sicknesses and diseases. Natural treatment, natural remedies, hydrotherapy, foot baths. We can do some of those things. Hot and cold showers. And the water does not have to be freezing cold. The water just needs to be cool enough to where your body reacts. So it doesn't have to be freezing. I don't like getting in a freezing cold shower, but it has to be just cold enough to create that reaction and then go back to the warm and go back to the cool. That creates circulation and it relieves muscles. It helps joints. It relieves pain. New Year's resolutions, we make them all the time. Oh, I'm going to work on my diet. I'm going to work on exercising more. I'm going to lose weight. And you see, the percentage of those that say they're going to do these certain things. But we have to. Brothers and sisters, it's extremely important that we do those first three. It's extremely important. It helps manage the pain. It helps manage our health. Do it before you can't. Do it before you can't. So without trying to get into a very pointed, this is your pain and this is your pain and this is what you need to do, because I don't know what you need to do. I don't know your pain. I don't know, where it is. I don't know what your conditions. I don't know if you've damaged it. I don't know if it's accident. Those things you have to ascertain, and you have to even get some medical attention to understand. But in general, you see the condition. You see how to address pain. You see how to address sickness. You see how to address disease. Ascertain what your problem is and make the correction. Get your baseline, so when your numbers change, you know that something is going to be affected. If you have pains, try working out some of the natural remedies rather than running to get the medications that we talked about before, because if you start the medications, you're going to continue those and you're going to end up dealing with side effects. And that's going to be another problem on top of a problem. So that's the general of the presentation today. Like I said, without going into really, really pointed. And so if someone has a comment or questions, don't ask me to diagnose your problem, because I cannot. And besides, I'm not a medical, and you're not my patient. That's one thing that we stay away from. Me as your doctor, you as my patient. You can be a brother, sister, a client, me giving you advice. But if I don't know your particular, I don't want to give you an answer and say, do this. And that's not even addressing your real bottom line problem. But in general, I can share this with you. Sister Marge.